At 11:42 p.m., my fiancée texted me, "Don't come over tonight. I need time to think." 5 minutes later, she accidentally sent another message, meant for someone else. "He's so clueless. I'll tell him after the weekend." I didn't reply, just drove to her place. Her car was gone, but the balcony door was open. I climbed up, slipped inside, and sat in the dark. An hour later, I heard laughing. 2 voices. The door opened. I turned on the light. She dropped her purse. I stood up, and then I saw. I wasn't expecting anything unusual that Friday night. The week had been long, filled with back-to-back meetings, wedding prep, and a few arguments that, at the time, didn't feel like red flags, just normal stress between a couple preparing for marriage. Lena and I had been engaged for 8 months. We'd picked the venue, mailed out most of the invitations, and the cake tasting was scheduled for Monday. At 11:42 p.m., while I was folding laundry in my apartment, I got a message from her. "Don't come over tonight. I need time to think." No greeting. No explanation. Just that. I stared at the text for a good 20 seconds, wondering if I had missed something. Earlier that day, we'd spoken about the florist. She'd sent me pictures of table setups. I even complimented her hair during her lunch break FaceTime. There were no signs of tension. Not that kind. I texted back, "Is everything okay?" The message was delivered, but not read. I set the phone down and stood in the middle of my living room, trying to decide if I should call her or respect her space. We weren't the couple who needed space. We talked through things. Even when we argued, we did it face to face. 5 minutes later, the phone buzzed again. I picked it up, half hoping it would be her telling me everything was fine. Instead, it read, "He's so clueless. I'll tell him after the weekend." The world didn't spin, but something inside my stomach did. My hands felt suddenly cold. I read it again. Then once more, slower. It wasn't for me. That much was obvious. It wasn't a typo. It was a direct statement, sent to the wrong person. And I was the he. I didn't reply. I didn't even blink for a few seconds. I just stood there, the phone still in my hand, while my brain tried to decide what to do with the information. Was it a joke? Was it about me? Was it some friend she was venting to, and I was misinterpreting? No, it wasn't. I knew Lena's tone, especially in messages. That text wasn't confusion or stress. That was confidence. Cruel, certain confidence. I sat down on the couch, leaned forward, and put the phone on the coffee table. I looked at it like it might offer some clarification. It didn't. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I opened up her Instagram. Nothing new. I checked her last post, her story, just a boomerang of wine glasses clinking with some friends 2 days ago. No location tag. I went to her close friends list. I wasn't on it. I used to be. I checked Find My iPhone, a feature we'd both turned on for safety reasons. Hers was offline. I called. No answer. I waited another 5 minutes. No response. The read receipt on my message never turned blue. I got up, grabbed my jacket, wallet, and keys. I didn't make a plan. I just drove. It was a 25-minute ride to her apartment, and I spent every minute of it trying to convince myself that I wasn't going to do anything stupid. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to accuse. I just wanted to know the truth. That's all. Just the truth. When I pulled into the lot behind her building, her car wasn't there. She had a white Civic with a noticeable scratch on the rear passenger door. Always parked in the same spot, under the third tree. That spot was empty. I parked anyway. Cut the engine. Just sat there for a while. The building was quiet. Only one of the second-floor apartments had a light on, and it wasn't hers. I walked around the side, toward the balcony. She lived in a second-floor corner unit with a sliding glass door that opened to a small balcony facing the alley. It wasn't the first time I climbed up there. Once, during a power outage, I had forgotten my keys and surprised her by crawling up and knocking on the glass like an idiot. We'd laughed about it for days. Tonight, though, I didn't knock. I noticed immediately that the sliding door wasn't shut all the way. The curtain was pulled across, but the small crack between the door and the frame was wide enough to see. I felt a breeze. I looked around. No one. The alley was still. The old drain pipe I had used before was still there. I put one foot on the dumpster and grabbed hold. My sneakers scraped against the wall. The metal groaned slightly, but held. 30 seconds later, I was over the railing, standing quietly on her balcony, peering into the apartment. The lights were off. No TV. No music. Nothing. I hesitated for a moment, listening. Then I slid the door open the rest of the way and stepped inside. The living room was neat, like she had cleaned earlier that day. A blanket was folded on the couch. Her phone charger was still plugged in near the end table. There was a faint smell of coconut from one of those wax warmers she liked. I didn't turn on the lights. I closed the balcony door behind me and moved into the living room. Sat down on the couch. Waited. At first, I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe for her to come back alone so we could talk. Maybe to see the look on her face when I showed her the text. But deep down, A small voice inside me already knew she wouldn't be alone. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't check my phone. I didn't move. Just sat still in the dark with the scent of wax and wine lingering in the air. Then, somewhere in the hallway outside, I heard a door shut. Footsteps. 2 sets. A laugh, hers. And then, a man's voice. My body tensed, but I didn't move. I stayed seated, facing the hallway entrance to the living room. A key turned in the lock. The doorknob clicked. The door opened. And the moment it did, the sound of Lena laughing filled the room, followed by the man's deeper voice saying, "Shoo, your neighbors will call the cops." The lights from the hallway spilled in for a moment. Then the door shut behind them. Lena's hand reached for the light switch. I flicked it on before she could touch it. The room exploded in white light. She froze. Her purse slipped from her shoulder and hit the hardwood with a heavy thud. The man beside her blinked at me, confused, unbothered, like I was the one in the wrong apartment. I didn't say a word. Lena's mouth opened. "Ryan." I stood up slowly from the couch. The man's hand dropped from her waist. And that's when everything finally started to come apart. Lena took a slow step back, as if she wasn't sure whether to reach for me or run. Her face was pale now, drained of whatever thrill she'd been riding moments earlier. Her lipstick was smudged slightly at the corner, and her earrings, the ones I'd gotten her for her birthday, shimmered under the living room light. She opened her mouth again, but I beat her to it. "Don't bother," I said. My voice wasn't loud, just steady. "You already said enough." The guy beside her, about my height but built broader, took a step forward. His tone was calm, casual. "Hey man, you should go? I don't know who you are, but this isn't really your business." I turned toward him. "You don't know who I am?" He shrugged. "I assume you're, what, her brother or something?" That made me laugh. It wasn't a loud laugh. Just one dry, bitter exhale. "I'm her fiancé," I said. At least I was, until 20 minutes ago. The guy's mouth twitched. Then his expression changed. His body stiffened. He turned to Lena. "Is that true?" She didn't respond. So I held up my phone. The screen was still lit, the message still visible. "He's so clueless. I'll tell him after the weekend." I handed it to her. She didn't take it. Her arms stayed limp at her sides. The guy stepped back a little, running a hand through his hair. "Jesus, Lena. It's not like that," she said finally. Her voice was quiet now, as if she'd suddenly remembered she was indoors. "Ryan, I was going to talk to you. I just needed to figure out how to explain." "Oh," I said, nodding slowly. "So this was part of the explanation?" "I didn't plan it," she said quickly. "I just needed some space, and you sent that message by accident." She looked down. Guilty silence. No denial. The guy looked at her again. "So you were engaged this whole time?" "I was going to end it," she snapped at him. "I swear, I was going to break it off. After the weekend, I cut in." Neither of them responded. I walked past them toward the kitchen. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. I wanted her to feel it. Not anger. Not rage. Just clarity. On the counter were 2 half-empty glasses of red wine. A bottle, Merlot, our favorite, was sweating condensation next to an open box of chocolates. I didn't need to ask who brought them. I turned, grabbed the stack of wedding invitation samples she had pinned with a magnet to the fridge, and held them up. "You told the printer to use blush and ivory. Said it matched the cake ribbon." "Ryan, stop," she said. "Please." I walked over to the trash can, flipped the lid, and dropped the stack inside. "You were always so detailed," I said. Shame none of it mattered. The guy stepped back toward the door. "I didn't know, man. If I had known." I looked at him. "You didn't ask. That tells me enough." He held up his hands, nodding slightly, then looked at Lena like she was a stranger. "I'm out," he said, and opened the door. She didn't follow him. The door shut quietly behind him. She turned to me. "Ryan, it just happened. We've been off for weeks, and you know it. We've been fighting about stupid things." "We weren't off," I snapped. "You wanted to pick napkin colors and cake forks 3 days ago. That's not what couples do when they're off." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, voice trembling. I didn't want to marry the wrong person, and I wasn't sure anymore. So instead of talking to me, you shopped around behind my back?" She didn't answer. She sat down slowly on the couch, rubbing her temples like she was the one who'd been ambushed. "I didn't plan this," she whispered. "He was just supposed to be dinner. I didn't think it would go that far." I raised an eyebrow. "Did it?" She didn't say anything. That was enough. I turned toward the door. My hand hovered on the knob. Then I stopped. "Everything paid for with my card. Venue, catering, photographer. It's being canceled in the morning," I said. "You can explain why to your family, if you're brave enough." "Ryan, please." I faced her one last time. "If you really wanted to tell me the truth, you would have sent that message to me on purpose." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't break anything. That would have given her too much power. And right now, she had nothing left that belonged to me, except maybe the last word. But even that, I wasn't going to give her. Outside, the air was colder than I remembered. The parking lot was empty. Her car was still gone. I guess she'd taken his instead. I got into mine and sat there for a minute before turning the engine. The ring in my pocket felt heavier than it should have. I thought about throwing it out the window, but I didn't. Not yet. On the drive home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't pound the steering wheel or call my best friend to vent. I just drove. And as the streets passed by in silence, I realized something. This wasn't the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of something much colder. I wasn't going to forget. I wasn't going to forgive. I was going to walk away the quiet way, without burning bridges, without raising my voice. But she'd know. She'd feel it. And she'd regret it. I barely slept that night. There's something about betrayal that doesn't let you drift off. Even when your body begs for rest, your mind keeps looping through details. The timestamp on her message, the tone of her voice when she saw me, the way she said, "It just happened." It didn't just happen. None of this had been spontaneous. I opened my laptop before sunrise and started making a list. Not an angry one. A practical one. 1. Venue, cancel. 2. Catering, cancel. 3. Florist, cancel. 4. Photographer, cancel. 5. Notify guests. 6. Return Lena's things. Each line was something I could control. And control felt like oxygen. The venue was first. I called the manager at 7:01 a.m. I told her the wedding was off, and I understood the deposit wasn't refundable. She paused, then offered me a partial credit or a reschedule. No, I said. I won't be rescheduling. She offered condolences. I thanked her politely. Next, the catering. We'd chosen a local company Lena insisted on because of their vegan options. I emailed them a cancellation request, asked them to donate the $2,000 deposit to a food bank. They replied within the hour, confirming and thanking me. The florist was trickier. Lena had already chosen the arrangements and insisted on a rare type of orchid. The invoice had my name on it. I canceled that too. No refund, but it didn't matter. The photographer was someone I knew from college. I texted her, "Hey, change of plans. Wedding's canceled. Appreciate your help. Hope we can still grab a beer sometime." She responded 10 minutes later. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk?" I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I walked into the closet, pulled down the small storage bin where Lena kept her things at my place. Socks, makeup, hairbrush, a pair of fuzzy slippers she wore when we watched Netflix on weekends. I opened a shipping box, packed everything inside carefully, added bubble wrap, sealed it. Then I wrote a note. Nothing dramatic. Just, "You left these. Good luck with after the weekend. R." I printed the label, scheduled the courier to pick it up from the front desk. After that, I logged into the wedding website we'd built together. It had a countdown timer on the homepage, 31 days to go, with a photo of us on the beach in Charleston. She'd chosen it because of the sunset. I updated the site with a single text-only banner. "Wedding canceled. No reschedule. Thank you for understanding." Then I hit publish. By the afternoon, my phone started buzzing. The first call was her mother. I didn't answer. Then her sister. Then one of her bridesmaids. Eventually, I sent a mass email to the guest list. Simple. No drama. The wedding between Ryan and Lena has been canceled. Please consider all events called off. Thank you. I didn't say who ended it. I didn't say why. I gave her space to decide how much truth she wanted to admit to her family. That part wasn't my responsibility anymore. Around 5:30 p.m., my phone lit up again. Her name on the screen. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. A minute later, "Please. I owe you an explanation." No reply. Then another. "You don't understand. That night wasn't what you think." That one made me laugh. I powered off my phone. Not because I was angry, but because the silence had become more powerful than any conversation. I opened a beer, cooked pasta, put on an old crime documentary, and watched it on the couch where we used to argue about what to watch. There were gaps in the room now, physical ones, emotional ones, but I didn't fill them. I let them breathe. The next day, the box was confirmed delivered to her address. She signed for it herself. The courier app showed her full name in the delivery receipt. That afternoon, her sister texted me. "She told me you left. I didn't know about the other guy. I'm really sorry." I read the message twice. Then came a screenshot. One I didn't expect. It was from their group chat with Lena's bridesmaids. The date was 2 days before everything fell apart. In it, Lena had written, "I just need him to stay calm until after the honeymoon deposit clears. I can't take the financial hit alone." Another message. "Once it's past the refund window, I'll tell him it's not working. Maybe next month. Or after my bachelorette trip." I didn't know whether to be angry or amazed. She hadn't just cheated. She'd calculated. I forwarded the messages to myself, then backed them up in a private email folder. Not because I planned to use them, but because knowing the truth mattered. And now I had the truth in writing. By Sunday morning, Lena emailed me. Subject, please read. Body, Ryan, I know I don't deserve anything from you right now. But please, I need to explain. What you saw. Yes, it was real. But it wasn't a relationship. It was a mistake. I panicked. I got overwhelmed. I made the worst decision of my life. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just didn't know how to walk away the right way. Please let me talk to you in person. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. I closed the email and sat with it for a while. And then I did the same thing I did the night she sent the wrong text. Nothing. Sunday passed quietly. I went for a walk in the evening, the kind where you don't pick a direction. You just follow sidewalks and hope your head clears. When I got home, I reheated some leftovers, opened a book I'd been meaning to finish for months, and didn't think about her. Not actively. But that's the lie we tell ourselves, isn't it? By midnight, I was in bed, half asleep, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I let it ring twice before checking it. Unknown number. No caller ID. Then a message popped up. I'm outside. I just want to talk. I swear. I sat up. Listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the fridge down the hall. Then another text. I brought your things too. I didn't want to leave it like this. Please come down. I walked to the window and gently peeled the blinds. She was standing across the street. Same dress as that Friday night. Same purse. Same expression, too. The one I'd seen in the moment before she dropped it, like guilt and panic were fighting for space on her face. She wasn't alone. A black car was parked behind her, the engine still running. I narrowed my eyes. Someone was in the driver's seat. A second later, the passenger door opened. A woman stepped out. Mid-30s, short hair, no makeup. She didn't look at Lena. She went straight to the trunk, pulled something out, then slammed it hard enough to make Lena flinch. They started arguing. Loud, but not enough for me to hear specifics. Lena was trying to hush her, hands raised like she was embarrassed. The woman didn't care. She pointed toward my building, shook her head, then got back in the car and slammed the door again. Lena stood there alone, holding what looked like the shipping box I'd sent her. She looked up toward my window. She saw me. We locked eyes. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stood there, as if unsure whether to take a step forward or collapse. I didn't move. Then her phone buzzed. She checked it, then slowly started walking toward the front entrance. I met her at the door, not because I wanted to, but because I needed it to be finished on my terms. I opened it before she could knock. Up close, she looked worse than I expected. No makeup, puffy eyes, hair pulled back into a messy bun. The box trembled slightly in her hands. Ryan, she began. What do you want? I asked. She swallowed. I thought maybe we could talk. No. You thought maybe you could explain? I said. But there's nothing left to explain. I know I screwed everything up. I know it. But I didn't mean for this to happen the way it did. And yet it did. She held out the box. You were right to send this back. But I thought. I don't know. Maybe we could. Stop, I said. Just stop trying to patch holes in something that's already underwater. Her voice cracked. I was scared. So was I said. Scared I'd end up marrying someone who saw me as a backup plan. Her eyes welled up. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't going to make it easier. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just didn't know if I loved you the way I was supposed to. I nodded slowly. Thank you for finally saying it out loud. She looked down at her feet. I don't expect forgiveness. You won't get it, I said. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the hum of the street behind her, the black car's engine still idling in the distance. Then she took a shaky breath and stepped back. I'll go. I opened the door wider. You already did. She turned and walked away. The car headlights lit her up for a second as she approached. The woman inside didn't open the door. Lena got in on the passenger side and shut it quietly. They sat there for a moment. Then the engine revved, and the car drove off. I stood in the doorway, watching it disappear down the road. Back inside, I locked the door, picked up the box, and carried it to the kitchen counter. I didn't open it. Instead, I made a cup of coffee, sat in the dark with only the stovetop light glowing, and waited for the weight in my chest to fade. It didn't. Not entirely. At least not yet. I checked my phone once before going to bed. Another message had come in, this time from an unknown number. Just a single sentence. He really didn't know, huh? No name. No context. But I knew exactly who it was from. And suddenly, I realized, it wasn't just me she lied to. There was more. And I wasn't sure I wanted to know it all. But as I stared at the screen, I felt something shift. Then I heard a knock at the back door. I turned around and saw Lena. She was standing just inside the back door I thought I had locked. Her hand was still on the doorknob. Her face was damp, like she'd been crying, but I didn't think the tears had anything to do with me. Behind her, the hallway light from the building's back stairs framed her like she didn't quite belong there. She wasn't supposed to be in my space anymore, not after everything. I didn't mean to scare you, she said softly. I didn't answer. She stepped inside, closed the door behind her, and looked around the kitchen like it felt unfamiliar. I watched her glance at the counter, at the box she had just returned, at the coffee mug I hadn't touched. Then she looked at me. Did she come by already? She asked. I nodded once. She told you everything? Again, I said nothing. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. Lena reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small. She placed it on the counter between us. It was the diamond from the ring. Not in the setting. Just the stone, loose. She didn't say anything about it. Just placed it down like it was trash she didn't want to carry anymore. Then she spoke, but her voice had changed. Not soft or sorry, just tired. I don't have an excuse. You were good to me. And I lied to you. I used you. I thought I had more time before you found out. I nodded again. Slowly. She looked down at the diamond. I kept it because I didn't know what else to do with it. But it felt wrong to sell it. It still does. You didn't come here to return it, I said. No, she admitted. I came to see what it felt like to be on the other side of the door. The one not being trusted. The one left out in the dark. I didn't say anything. Not because I wanted her to speak, but because I no longer cared what she said. You don't have to forgive me, she added. I won't, I said. She stood there for another second. Maybe waiting for me to ask her to stay. Maybe just too ashamed to move. Then she turned around, opened the door, and left without another word. This time, I locked it behind her. I picked up the diamond and placed it back in the box. It didn't matter what I did with it now. It had no meaning left. I turned off the kitchen light, walked back to the living room, and sat down in the same spot I'd been in that night. The night I waited in the dark, hoping I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. I just didn't know the whole story yet. Now I did. And it was finally over. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.